council. And usually you see on the agenda that we recognize some guests or individuals, and we haven't been able to do much of that with COVID. But this evening, I have one individual that I would like to recognize and show for you all that is going to join us. And this is Mr. Flat Stanley. Flat Stanley was sent to me in an envelope from the 3rd grade class at Bardstown Elementary School, the class of Mrs. Grubbs and Mrs. Moore. The student who sent Flat Stanley to me is Hadley Smith. She explained to me how they send Flat Stanley via an envelope through the mail to do adventures around the world. And they asked me to let Flat Stanley join us in some of our adventures here at the City Hall. So Flat will be joining us tonight as we do the business of the people here in Bardstown. So please welcome Mr. Flat Stanley.
Love it.
That's
all
super
right.
cool.
So just be on your toes since we got someone here special watching us this evening. I will start with the road salt auction tabulation. I'll ask Jessica to give us that report out, please.
Yes, this road salt auction is handled by Keiko online, and this year you can see the low bid with the awarded person for. I'm sorry, I'm trying to get my SharePoint to log in just here, but the person on the agenda, they were the low bidder in the road salt, and they have been a provider or vendor for us in the past. So we had no objections for asking the council to go ahead and award them the low bid for the online salt auction by Keiko.
All right. Anyone have any questions of Jessica on this bid tabulation and recommendation?
Jessica, where's this company from?
I don't have
Are they in
that.
Kentucky? Are they in Kentucky?
I'm wanting to say they're just across the river. Let me look that up real quick. Compass.
That was my question. I just wondered if any of them were local. I assume they probably aren't.
No, there's not a vendor in Bardstown.
That's what I figured.
You know, I don't know if I've ever been beaten by 1 cent on a
Yeah.
proposal before.
Pretty competitive.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that's how this auction works, is as you get closer and closer to the closing of bid, it's almost like an eBay where you can keep going in and bidding. And if you're willing to go lower, you post your bid. So I think that's, it's a little bit unique in how they're doing this. It's not just, oh, the bid's open till a certain time, you submit it closed. It's like an auction.
Yeah.
Like you're bidding at a traditional auction. More like eBay, though.
Yeah. If you're, we don't have any other questions for Jessica, can I ask for a motion to approve the bid of Compass Mineral America through the Keiko road salt auction for $90.99 per ton for 150 tons.
I'll make that motion, Mayor.
A motion by Councilman Hibbs. Is there a second?
I'll second, Mayor.
All right. Second by Councilwoman Hart. Any other discussion? All right. Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you. Okay, Jessica, you've got a request for service for water out on Pembroke Place Phase 2.
Yes, this is a 14-home street addition off of Pembroke Place out in the Woodlawn area. And again, it's for 14 homes, a request for water only. So they're asking that at the completion of this development plan that the city incorporate this water main into our public infrastructure system. And again, they're doing a hydraulic analysis and running those numbers to make sure, and provided that it meets all local and state requirements, I have no objection of these 14 customers being added into our water system.
So would you like that to be part of the motion, that there's a condition that the hydraulic analysis has to be adequate to support this addition?
Yes, that's fine. That's generally typical of all new applications. They have to provide that engineering work to show that we can handle that. But certainly, if the council would like to make that more specific, that can certainly be part of that request.
All right. Does anyone else have any other questions? Or just, we've already approved phase 1 of this development anyhow, right?
Yes, this is an existing development out off of Woodlawn Road. I think it's just north of Summers Lane. So there's some existing residential homes there, and this is just an additional street off of that existing road that would allow 14 homes. So yes, there's already customers in the area of similar nature.
Right.
I have
Right.
a question.
Go ahead, Councilman
Okay.
Williams.
How does new construction affect the water pressure in these areas with our current customers?
Obviously, if there is a very large demand, that would occur during peak hours, you could see some flow, which the customer oftentimes sees as a pressure drop. Obviously, but in this case, because it's only 14 homes and there's a hydraulic analysis that's going to, ensure before we give official approval that it can meet all drinking water standards, with minimum pressure and flow. That will have to be proven during that. But again, if this were 300 homes, this would be a much different impact. But for 14 residential homes, this is going to have very, very minimal impact. And again, we are currently in the process of constructing a water line loop along US 150 over to Poplar Flat that will improve the hydraulic flow for the customers in this area. So I don't have a problem, provided the numbers come back okay. I don't anticipate this being an issue that's going to cause reduction in pressure or service to the existing residents out there.
Okay.
All right. If there are no other questions, I'd ask for a motion to approve the extension of a 6-inch water main for Pembroke Place Phase 2 per the recommendation of our city engineer, and with the condition that the hydraulic analysis will be made, which is our normal requirement.
So moved, Mayor.
All right. Motion by Councilman Williams. Is there a second?
Second, Mayor.
Second by Councilman Hibbs. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Excuse me, did Betty, were you going to recuse from this?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Councilman Hart will be recusing herself from this. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion is carried. Thank you. All right, we have 2 requests for some walk run fundraisers here. And the first one is for the Nelson County Community Clinic. And that's from the Bloomfield Middle School backpack class. They're going to do a walk run 5K on May 22nd. As you can see, they will be making arrangements with the city fire department and our police department on making sure the route is safe. It's a 2-hour period. Does anyone have any questions on this? It follows the same route that many of these follow, so it doesn't look like it's going to create too much trouble.
Mayor, I'd just like to comment. I think it's very admirable that their teacher involved them in this whole process. She could have easily done it herself, but she's really teaching them how to get things done.
That's right. And I think I might have said the community clinic, but it looks like the Humane Society. I think the other one is for the community clinic. I got those backwards. But anyway, I think it's a worthy cause, and we do these, several times a year. So we'd ask for a motion then to approve the request by the Bloomfield Middle School for the 5K run walk fundraiser on May 22nd.
So moved, sir.
Mayor.
All right, and then with the condition, obviously, that they'll work with the police and fire department to make sure the route is got some observation and safe. All right.
All right.
I didn't catch who made the first motion.
I think it was
that?
Joe. I think it was Buckman, sir.
All right, Councilman Buckman, is there a second?
I'll second, Mayor.
All right, we have a second by Councilwoman Hart. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Yeah, I think when I opened my correspondent, I clicked on the second one instead of the first one. The first one is for the Nelson County Community Clinic for a fundraiser. And of course, it's called Run for the Health of It. And theirs is going to be on June the 12th. Just a 1 hour period where their route is got a map attached to it. And as you can see, they've got River City Races they are partnering with to help coordinate it. So they're a good organization that puts these kind of events on. So I think it'll be handled very well. So is there any questions or discussions on the request by the Nelson County Community Clinic on this particular event? Okay, if not, then I need a motion then to approve the request for Nelson County Community Clinic for their 5K run walk for the health of it on June the 12th.
I'll make that motion, Mayor.
We have a motion by Councilman Hibbs. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Buckman. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, like sign. Thank you. I'm gonna move on. We've got our minutes from our regular meeting on March 23rd. And then we have the minutes from the HRB special hearing on April 1st. If there's no additions or corrections, we can approve them by unanimous consent. Okay, we'll do that. They're approved then by unanimous consent. I want to call on Aaron Bowles to give us our March financial report, or excuse me, review. It's March 2021 review. So Aaron, I'll turn that over to you.
Thank you, Mayor. Pretty quiet month again here at the city. We'll just get right into it here. General fund revenue came in for the month at $744,000. 59% of that was through occupational license fees and net profit fees. So occupational license fees kind of slowed down a little bit just with their cyclical pattern that they do right before a quarter end. That line item's running really good though. We're currently at 89.8% of budget, and we've seen just over $4.2 million of revenue year to date of occupational license fees. Net profit, it's ramping up a little bit. We saw $155,000 last month, and I would expect that to continue to increase as the due date approaches in the middle of May. Just some other things that revenue-wise that happened throughout the month. I noted restaurant tax collected of 107,000. That's really 2 months worth. There was kind of a delay in last month, so we posted 2 months in March. And again, that's really just a pass through. It's not really revenue for us. You'll see the expense on the next page, but again, the tourism does all the administration. It just passes through the city because we are the actual taxing authority on that. We had a sale of surplus property through GovDeals, about $26,000. If you break that down, the fire department got around 8,000, rec 7,800, police 5,400, and admin got $4,800. So it was a decent sale and decent revenue coming in for us. The other item I wanted to mention is the prior year retirement adjustment of $24,000. So before I started, back in April, May of 2019, there was an issue with filing our retirement to the KRS board. I think we had overpaid for some reason or other. I don't know exactly what happened, but we had overpaid. So I think with COVID and that whole team at the KRS, I think most of them were working from home. Things got really slow. I kept trying to contact them and see where it was at, but we finally got some of this returned to us. So of that we had overpaid, $24,000 was attributed to the general fund. This was a note in the FY19 audit, if you guys remember. So in FY19, it was set up as a receivable. In FY20, this past audit, we had actually written it off because we couldn't get a straight answer out of KRS as to when that money was coming back. So this is showing up this year as just a miscellaneous revenue line item in the general fund and the combined utilities. Year-to-date revenue running really good, 82% of budget, or $9.7 million for up through March 31st. Moving on to expenses.
Hey, Aaron, could I ask one question?
Yeah.
I think was all the sale of surplus property, I didn't quite hear all that, was all of those vehicles?
Quite a bit of it was vehicles. The fire department had a truck, and the police department had a few vehicles sold, but there was a lot of just miscellaneous items from the fire department or the police department that had been accumulating over there. They sold. The fire department had some rack type equipment that they sold. Of course, we had old cell phones from administration side, and then the rec department had a mower and some other outdoor type equipment that was sold.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
It's kind of a hodgepodge of everything we had sitting around. Expenses were $749,000 for the month. Again, the biggest thing, salaries and benefits, 58%. That's a little bit elevated this month. We had, excuse me? Oh. We had $81,900 of health insurance claims reimbursement that we had to send over to our self-insurance fund. Audit fees, you'll note they're $33,000. That is a little bit more expensive than Percy and Gray. I think the FY19 audit cost us $25,500. RFH Group was $33,000 for this year. A couple of things there. Their first year charges just were $3,000, and that's just for extra time that it took them to get everything set up. So that was a one-time deal for them. And then also this year, we had a single audit that cost another $3,000. So again, anytime we have federal funds over $750,000 coming in, we have to file that single audit, and that's an additional expense. Community grants, we paid out a couple of these were all council approved. One was for the Bread for Life program, $5,000. That was a little late. I think he actually approved that in December, but it fell through the cracks somehow. Nelson County Community Clinic, they got $5,000, and then that United for Recovery, you had approved, I believe, back in December, but it was for some work that GBA was going to do in printing some booklets, and that was $2,000. We finally got the invoice in for that. So, in the community grants fund, just on a side note, there's $6,000 remaining in that line item. Year-to-date expenditures are 71% of budget, or $8.1 million. There's no questions. We'll move on to the combined utilities. Revenue for them came in at $3.7 million. 87% of that was service charges. There's just some other smaller items there, just the normal Rowan Creek project that's ongoing, and then that prior year retirement adjustment revenue for the combined utilities came in at just over $26,000. Year to date, we're running a little bit behind schedule, 64.6%, or $29.4 million. And as we've discussed in the past, that 64% looks low, but all of our normal revenue channels, like service fees and service connection charges, those are all running on target. What's causing this discrepancy is we have large projects that get reimbursed by KIA or federal grant programs that are just running behind budget as far as filing and making payments on those. So, and also there's internal transfer revenue that I haven't made entries for yet. So there's $900,000 in transfer revenue that hasn't been made. And then the sewer sewer department has budgeted $6.3 million in federal grant and KIA loan revenue. But we've only seen $1.7 million of that. So they're only running about 27% of budget. So there's quite a bit there that's still on the table. Again, those numbers will go up as that project nears completion, and we file for reimbursement from the KIA on those items.
So Aaron, that was just then that's just a timing issue, not necessarily something that's not going to make it in the budget. It's budgeted, but it's just a timing on when the reimbursements are coming in.
Right. And you'll see in the expense side that it's also running below budget. Again, it's all attributable to these projects that are high dollar items in our line items in our budget that are just running behind schedule as far as where we thought they would be, I guess, at this point of the year. So those will probably roll over into next year as we continue to try to finalize those projects. And moving on to expenses, month-to-date expenses, go with that, $3.1 million. Most of that was electric purchase for resale. That was just over $1 million this month. Salaries and benefits, of that 593, again, that's a little elevated because of health insurance claims. $117,000 of health insurance claims that were attributed to combined utilities last month. And again, year to date, we're running about 65% of budget. And it's the same concept as the revenue. We've budgeted large project expenditures that just haven't drawn out to where they make a significant impact into the budget. Just for instance, water and sewer projects, they're only running about 30 to 40% of budget. So they've got quite a bit of money left there and able to expense out. And if you compare the two, you'll note that year to date revenue is year-to-date expenditures are outpacing revenue in the combined utilities. And that was by design, that was planned and budgeted for. As of now, we're about using $1.8 million of our reserves with the combined utilities. Just with that difference, we budgeted to use $2.2 million of reserves to cover those projects that weren't covered under the KIE loans. Most of it was in sewer. We had the lagoon liner replacement and things like that. So if there's any questions on that?
Aaron, what's the bad debt expense?
Those are old accounts that we have not collected, and we can't contact them. They haven't come in to open up a new account that we can find them. And those are now written off and sent to our credit collection agency, CCHA. So we'll get a percentage of that back as they start, because they have different avenues to where they can find these people.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions for Aaron on the financial?
And one last page there on that.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Cash was increased by $386,000 to about $15.9 million for the month. Investments are steady. And then I just listed that occupational license fee trend, just again showing you how that revenue comes in throughout the year. So we're kind of at the low point now, and then it'll start spiking back up as those quarterly filers start sending in their payments. And then below that, I've listed the year-to-date totals of occupational license fees. So you can see we're about a 6.7% increase year over year as of March 31st. That's all I had.
Okay, sorry for jumping the gun on you on
All right.
questions. Anyone else have any other questions for Aaron on the financials? All right. Thank you, Aaron. Okay, do we have any other reports from any of the staff members? Anybody have anything to bring up? All right. We'll move on then to we have a couple of tax moratoriums, but first, before we get there, we have a resolution that we need to approve on behalf of a law enforcement protection grant. If I could I ask someone to introduce this resolution, and then we'll have our city attorney, Audrey Hayden, read it for us.
Mayor, I'd be happy to do that. Introduce resolution number R 2021-03. And please and have our city attorney please read the resolution for us in full.
Thank you.
And thank you, Mayor. Resolution R 2021-03. A resolution of the City of Bardstown, Kentucky, authorizing the mayor to make application for and upon approval to enter into an agreement with the Kentucky Office of Homeland Security, KOHS, to execute any documents which are deemed necessary by KOHS to facilitate and administer the project and to act as the authorized correspondent for this project. Whereas the City of Bardstown, Kentucky desires to make an application for law enforcement protection program funds for a project to be administered by the Kentucky Office of Homeland Security. And whereas it is recognized that an application for an approval of Kentucky Office of Homeland Security funds imposes certain obligations and responsibilities upon the city, now therefore be it resolved this 13th day of April 2021 by the City of Bardstown, Kentucky that, there it goes, okay, that the mayor is hereby authorized to execute and furnish all required documentation, including a memorandum of agreement, as may be required by KOHS for the furtherance of the above referenced project, and to act as the authorized correspondent for the said project.
Okay, thank you, Audrey. is Chief Kressig or Joe Seeley or Kevin on the meeting? If they might just kind of give us a little overview of this, and maybe how much this grant is requesting.
It's Kevin, sir.
Yes, Kevin.
I'm not sure on the amount. This is basically the standard procedure for us to get started. It was going to be for, I know, vests and one other, can't remember the other items, but it would basically say we pay for it. And then it's what we've done in the past. And then we're writing the grants through them to get the money to pay us back for it. But I'm not
Okay.
sure to that exact amount at this time.
All right. Well, thank you. That's what the resolution is needed for that. All right. Well, thank you. Does anyone else have any other questions? If not, I'd ask for a motion to approve resolution R 2021-03.
So moved. Mayor.
We have a motion by Councilman Hibbs, and I think a second by Councilwoman Hart. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Like sign. All right, thank you. We'll go then to M 2021-01, which is a tax moratorium on 110 South Elm Grove Street. As you all know, these are done periodically where they get to keep the assessed value for a certain amount of time until after they do the renovations before they're allowed to get reassessed. So I think that's 5 years, if I'm not mistaken. Is that, anybody know that for sure? Joe, is that correct?
It is 5 years, Mayor.
Yeah. So you've got the information there in front of you. It looks like they're going to spend about $10,000 on this property, and it'll get reassessed after the 5-year period. So if I could ask for a motion to approve M 2021-01, which is a tax moratorium request for 110 South Elm Grove Street.
So moved, Mayor.
All right, we have a motion by Councilman Williams. Is there a second?
Second.
I'll second it.
All right, I think Councilman Shekels is on the second. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you. And then we have another one, M 2021-02, and that is at 509 North 3rd Street. It's like a bigger project and a lot larger amount of improvements. And I think we have 2 of the council members need to recuse. Is that Councilwoman Hart and Councilman Buckman?
Correct,
Yes,
sir.
Mayor.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions on this request? All right. If not, then we ask for a motion to approve M 2021-02.
So moved, Mayor.
A motion by Councilman Jones. Is there a second?
Second that, Mayor.
Second by Councilman Hibbs. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion's carried, and let the record show that Councilman Buckman and Councilwoman Hart recused themselves from the vote. Okay, any members of the council have anything to bring before the council this evening?
Are we under comments or this?
Yeah, comments?
Okay, this is self-serving, but I want everybody to know that if I make it until tomorrow, it'll be my 48th anniversary.
Hey,
Congratulations.
Happy anniversary.
Right.
Long time on the job.
Yeah.
That's a lot of work on both of your all's part. I promise. you.
Amen.
Good
Stop
stuff.
right there.
All right. Congratulations, Roland.
Thank you. Thank you.
We'll move on then to cemetery deeds. We have Jennifer Clemens, purchase of one grave site. Lisa Bunnell, purchase of one grave site. And Betty Jean Rayleigh, purchase of two grave sites. We can approve them by unanimous consent. Okay. Mayor's update. I've got a few things on my plate this evening. We'll start with COVID related stuff. As many of you saw and probably heard that they've suspended the use of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine because of they're investigating some blood clot issues on 6 people. I think out of the 7.8 million vaccines that have been administered. So Lincoln Trail Health Department obviously is suspending their use of that vaccine, and they've notified us. They will continue to have their clinics using the Moderna vaccine, and they'll keep us in the loop on the status of the Johnson & Johnson vaccines. On a more positive note, you saw yesterday where Governor Beshear made an announcement that if we could reach a level of 2.5 million people to be vaccinated here in the state of Kentucky, that he would lift some of the restrictions that are currently in place. And we're at 1.6 million. They estimate 1.6 million have been vaccinated now, so we've got a little under 1 million to go to do that. But in doing so, they think it could take 4 to 6 more weeks for that to occur. As you all might have heard last week, they've opened up that very, very large site through U of L Health at Cardinal Stadium last week in Louisville that I think has the ability of 4,000 vaccines a day. But the vaccines are, really escalating here in Kentucky, even with the Johnson & Johnson suspension. They still think they can hit this number in 4 to 6 weeks. And of course, that means that venues of 1,000 or less would have no capacity restrictions once this is lifted, and the social distancing restrictions would be lifted. Obviously, large event arenas and indoor large event facilities, stadiums, and that would probably still have restrictions where the event space holds 1,000 or more. But I just want to encourage everybody to get out there and get the vaccine when possible, and encourage all the council members and city staff to also get the word out. This week, I know we've received notice that Walmart has had some reservations available, and they're continuing to let us know about that, because they don't want to lose any of the vaccines. Once they take them out to be used, they don't want to lose those. So we'll try to keep the public in the loop on that when we get that information. But there's still a lot of ways the public's getting pretty savvy about finding the vaccine. So we want to encourage that, because it sure would be nice to get some of these restrictions lifted once we hit that 2.5 million threshold. Of course, masking would still be required, but that would be go a long way to help businesses and help all of us kind of get back to a more normal daily routine. So that was good news. The other thing I'd like to talk about tonight, and I've spoken to a few of the council members, but if you remember at the end of the year, I asked the council members and staff to put together a kind of a wish list of goals and projects we'd like to see undertaken during this next 2 years. And of course, one of the main ones that you all talked about, and it's also one of mine as well, is to look into the possibility of getting an indoor sports complex built with more multi-use courts, as well as a possible aquatic center and indoor walking trail and other amenities. So Judge Watts and Kim Houston from Economic Development, we got a referral on a company that consults on these kind of projects for cities and counties and private investors. They're based out of Louisville. Pinnacle Indoor Sports is the company, and the judge and Kim and I met, and we were very impressed with their presentation. And so the three of us left that meeting with the idea of approaching our various members of our organizations, the City Council, Fiscal Court, and BIDC, to share in the cost of this study. It'd be a little under $5,000 for each one of us. We think it's well worth it. This is a big project. You don't want to just do it, I think internally, while we got a lot of people that would love to take part in this, the recreation department and engineering, but I think the judge and I and Kim think that, a consultant that this won't just be another feasibility study. Obviously, some of that comes into play, but they will update the data that we have collected on the previous studies, the last of which was 2014. So we need to update the data. They'll, of course, have a public input segment of this phase. And there's a lot of analytical work about population and demographics. Review a lot of the existing regional and local sports groups, and kind of concentrate on 10 sports that are the most prominent that are in this area, on the facilities that are out there and their use in this region. They'll also analyze the facilities at public and private schools and our churches, and to see what is going on there. And this may not be a big part of it, but obviously they'll take a look at what some colleges and universities in the area have in the way of their sports complexes. But they'll take an inventory, an in-depth inventory of all of these type facilities, both municipal and private, indoor and outdoor facilities, on the type of facilities that they have, the amount of usage that they have, and so forth. Also, YMCAs that are in the area, they'll take a look at them and what they include. And another very important part of this is evaluate some possible sites where a facility like this might go. But the major part of this that kind of differs from those that we've had in the past is that this company has already consulted on about 50 projects that actually became reality around the country. Some of them here in Kentucky, and we have been in contact with those cities where they have consulted on those projects that went from planning stage all the way through construction. But they have also consulted on a number of projects. They get called in many times to consult after the fact, when the local community or a private investor did not maybe use a consultant up front, and they ran into problems afterwards, and they brought Pinnacle in to help analyze the situation and make recommendations to fix those problems and so forth. So they've got a lot of experience on everything from what the usage will be, the percentage of use that, let's say if you put a racquetball in there, they will be able to kind of give us a prediction of how much use that court will get, and what part of the revenue stream that might be in the total revenue annually, and all the other facilities that we're talking about. And they have these numbers because they know on a per square foot basis about what these type of complexes cost. They also know about what it costs to operate them in various parts of the country. You know, they know what utilities might average in Kentucky, and they would be different, obviously, in New Jersey, but they've got a lot of experience. They can also work on, you know, some estimates on the construction cost of the type of facility. So at the end of all this, I really looked at this. This would be truly a business plan for us to use to make decisions on the affordability of such a facility, the affordability on certain components of this type of building, be it the aquatic center, be it the 3 multi-purpose courts, perhaps a racquetball court, or some play areas and so forth. So we got this referral through a banker, a friend of mine who knew of this company, and I appreciate the referral because I really think for the cost of a little less than $15,000, it would be money well spent on phase 1 to really truly understand the feasibility of a facility like this. And then from that point, there's a second phase that would be a economic impact estimate over the 10-year period once the facility was built, and how that could impact us both on perhaps the impact of AAU events being held here, tennis tournaments, perhaps if we have an indoor court ability for indoor tennis tournaments or volleyball tournaments, swim meets and so forth, because obviously the schools, 4 high schools have swim teams. There would be swim meets held here. Might even find, you know, it gets expanded into regional events and that sort of thing. So that's just kind of a quick overview of this. I just wanted to talk to you all about this and maybe just get your feeling. We don't really need a formal vote on a $5,000 investment on our part for this, but I would like to hear you all had it. You know, some of you I've talked to, and some of you all have had a chance to look at some of the details. Just what your thoughts might be.
Mayor, I'm all in for doing, you know, having the BIDC in the county and us having someone like that to come in. I think that would really be to our advantage, and let us know, you know, maybe what do we want racquetball, or they'll tell us if we can afford racquetball or not, or a swimming pool or whatever. I think that's an excellent way of going about it myself.
I agree as well, sir.
Thank you.
I agree
You know,
as well. I think it's $15,000 well spent.
well, when we had Kim in that meeting, because, you know, a facility like this does come into play on economic development. You know, it's a quality of life addition to the community that can help us attract you know, new major investments, but it also, there's another part of it, can help attract people who want to move to this area who then become possibly available in the workforce. And that is such a place we need more people right now that, you know, there is an economic development part of this, and the impact, there's a hospital, you know, there's recreational tourism involved as well, possibly with these type of facilities. So all that kind of falls under Kim's umbrella with NCEDA. So we will take this up at BIDC at the next meeting, and Judge Watts will be, I think, talking with his magistrates as well. So I'm hoping we'll get the green light on this and get Pinnacle started on their work as soon as possible. So I kind of jumped in there after Betty's comment. Does any other council members have anything else to say on
Mayor,
this proposal?
Of course, I met with you in your office when we had that meeting, and I'm 100% in agreement. And I just feel like the advantages of the improvement of quality of life are well worth it.
Thank you, Coach Rowe. All right. Anyone
Mayor,
else?
I'm glad you used your great sales ability to get the the judge and Kim on board with this project. It's something we've been kicking around for the last 15 years. So congratulations to you on your great sales ability to bring all those two other parties together.
I appreciate that, Bill, but I simply invited them to meet with Mr. Gill, the owner, and all three of us left that meeting very impressed. It's just interesting to note that they've worked with hundreds of cities and counties and private investors on these things. And, he did remind us that many parts of their job is to come in and fix problems after the fact when they didn't do his thorough work up front, and including some YMCAs. He said he's had to go in and help on some of those facilities. So we're just fortunate. He's very experienced in this, his whole company, and I think it'll be money well spent, and I think help us at least go from we've talked about it to the point where we can make a sound business decision about the affordability of such a project and how the community, the usage of certain aspects of it. They really get down into the minutia of the whole project. So I'm looking forward to it. So we hope that should know more from the judge and Kim within the next week, I think. So thank you all.
Hey, Mayor, just if we get this company to do this, how long does it take, or how long would it take to have some kind of results back as far as what they would suggest? Did they say?
I don't really have a date on the amount of time it would take, but so I don't want to guess at it. I'll definitely give you all that if we assuming the judge and BIDC go along with this. I'll get you all an answer on that once we get into it. I don't remember that exact amount of time.
Okay.
All right. Well, if there's nothing else, I can ask for a motion for adjournment.
So move.
That's Councilman Buckman. You're usually
Yes.
the one on that.
That's
Second.
right.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Williams. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right.